Yeah, there's no question this is a political win, right? It kicks the can down the road at least long enough that we're not going to have to deal with this between now and the election, which kind of means that New York case is the only one pending. Puts a lot of pressure on Judge Marchand. Now he has to carry the weight of all the leftists in the media to. I actually wonder if this raises the stakes for him to sentence Trump, because now they're like, hey, dude, it's all on your shoulders. You got to do something now.
The weight was always on Judge Merchan's shoulders. He ensured that he did everything to sabotage the rule of law. Regardless of the immunity case, Merchan made sure that we didn't have an expert witness even testify about what a campaign contribution was. He allowed the jury to be dismissed into the wild, wild west, in my opinion, to read mainstream media and all the other news instead of having a decision during a holiday weekend. He continued to stack the deck against President Trump. And the most vile act was the unconstitutional gag order against President Trump, which, by the way, is still pending. There was only a partial repeal of that gag order, which allowed the president to speak about the jury and some of the issues in the case. President Trump still can't speak about this biased liberal DC judge or his daughter that made millions. It's ridiculous, Sean. But yes, the weight of the world will now be on Judge Merchan. And I truly think he was always biased. The sentencing isn't going to change, and Democrats are going to push for additional lawfare.
Yeah. Oh, no. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised now to see a prison sentence, because this is it, man. This is what they got left. And they're like, dude, you got to do something, because we need a new talking point. We need to change the game. After the debate, I mean, look, I think a couple things. The gag order, right? You had the debate, the convention. They wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to be a talking point. So it's like, we'll gag you on that. But then on this other stuff, man, this is where they need to shift the narrative. After the debate, they need something new. And this could be it, right? This could be it. Put him in, like I've always said, and tell me how crazy this is legally. I think that what they do is they sentence him to jail, but defer the sentence because they know he's going to be appealed. That gives them the talking points on the left, right? So they could say he's going to jail. He's been sentenced to jail pending appeal. So they give the Democrats the talking point without actually sending him to jail.
100%, Sean. This is all about media headlines and talking points, nothing about the rule of law. And even now, this major Supreme Court decision, Democrats are going to come out and push. These conservative judges have gone rogue. You had Nancy Pelosi already talk about a decision before a decision came out. There is no respect for the rule of law when it comes to the Supreme Court decision.
Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? I mean, they've yet to rule on this immunity thing, all this thing about Alito and the flags and Clarence Thomas and his wife. I mean, do you have confidence in the Supreme Court?
No, I think they've gone rogue. It's most unfortunate.
I'm truly worried about the safety of these justices, because I believe that the Democrats have engaged in lawfare. They've weaponized the legal system. And now Merchan is going to take any headline he can and say, Trump is a convicted felon. I am sentencing him to prison. These are headlines they want. And look, you've covered this best. This continues to backfire. Poll after poll, President Trump continues to just clench even tighter that victory for November, in addition to fundraising numbers. This is backfiring on Democrats, and they have no other plan. It's the end of the day for them. It's the end of the game. We now, as Republicans, need to take nothing for granted and focus on November and vote early and vote smart.
100%. It's funny. I started to hear from a lot of the legal experts, the Chief Justice Roberts, who's going to write the case, which he obviously did, or the opinion. But I kept thinking to myself, in the back of my mind, all of these attacks leveled by Senator Dick Durbin and other Dem elected officials on Alito and his wife were for a reason. And 6-3 made me realize that maybe I was wrong on this, or that I wasn't, because I kept thinking maybe they know something, that it's a 5-4 case, and they want to say, see, if Alito didn't vote, it would have been 4-4. Like, I thought they actually knew something, because the attacks on Alito in the last few weeks have been so big that I kept thinking these guys are trying to play the refs.
Sean, you're right. This is not by design. We are part of what I think is the greatest American experiment. And we are truly pawns in a Democrat scheme, from not only the election interference that is happening at the highest level to Biden's cognitive decline when the media went crazy and said, we had no idea. Everybody knew. And now to attack Supreme Court justices, Nancy Pelosi was just calling the Supreme Court rogue. You're attacking Justice Alito. This is all to continue to manipulate the American people. We have to have respect for the rule of law. We have to have respect for the Supreme Court justices. And sometimes things don't go your way politically. That doesn't mean it's wrong legally.
I just want to get back to the case for a second, right? So they basically are like, hey, if you're an official act, you're covered, which I frankly am shocked, as I said, that we had to deal with this. But if it's a personal act, and I get that, if the president of the United States walks down the street and shoots an enemy of his, or, whatever, does something, and we'd say, okay, that you can't be immune from that. You are still a citizen of the United States and held liable legally for your personal actions that don't have to do with this. It seems to me that Team Trump is going to argue the president of the United States. Doesn't seem to me. This is what they were arguing. The Team Trump, when the president was acting on January 6th, etc., he was acting in his capacity, calling Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, and saying, as president of the United States, I want to make sure that this election is fair. What Jack Smith and the prosecution are saying is, no. That wasn't as president. That was a candidate, right? How difficult is it going to be for the courts to suss out what's official and what's personal?
Well, I think when it comes to January 6th, we have to look specifically. There was an election, which means that election results are going to be within the purview of a presidential's duties to ensure that these election results were fair. And that's exactly what President Trump was doing in his official capacity. He didn't call in as a private citizen and knock on the Board of Elections door or the Secretary of State to say, I'm going to file against you. He asked if they were fair. So these are all official acts that he was taking before there was an election certification. So we need to make sure that we're applying that standard anytime there's an election to any official, including a president, when you're asking questions. Outside that perimeter would have been if President Trump or any president, for instance, decided to bribe an attorney general or secretary of state to fudge the numbers. None of that happened. On their own accounts, they said President Trump called to ask about the numbers. He was specifically asking about voter counts. That is within his presidential duties and his official act. This is about the election integrity, and that is within a president's purview. So I think that this shouldn't be rocket science. And you said it best. Why did this case even have to come up? For over 200 years, we have known that presidents enjoy immunity. And it's not only civil, but criminal immunity during official acts. If they didn't, we would have had lawsuits with Clinton, Obama. President Trump didn't go out there and try and get Clinton or get Obama. We truly have always respected presidents have certain abilities as they're performing their duties for their acts, and you can't just criminally or civilly prosecute them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. What are the odds? Like, sometimes when I watch TV shows, right, the jury comes back and it's a hung jury, and the prosecution says, all right, well, we're not gonna go through this again, right? And they just kind of give up. Does Jack Smith, in a situation like this, when it gets thrown back to the lower court and they say, you guys got to decide all this, does he say, fine, we're going to refile and we'll make the case and we'll go through the whole process again, knowing that Trump would, if it was ruled against him, he would then appeal again to the Supreme Court. Does he say, all right, enough's enough, I tried, and stop with that? Or does the government just say, screw it, we've got all the resources and time in the world and we're going to keep plowing forward?
Oh no, Jack Smith is a dog with a bone, or whatever the American phrase is. I am telling you, he's going to continue to go at it. And this is where the courts have to slap him down, because the president President Trump was well within his authority to instruct the Department of Justice to question election fraud using his official White House avenues. So I think that Jack Smith and all of these rogue, well, they're not rogue because they're under Biden's purview, but all of these liberal elitist attorneys are going to try and go after President Trump. And it's going to take massive decisions from courts to push back and say, this was an official act. You have to let it go.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.